أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس مالك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
صلوات ہما صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. حاضر ہے حاضری میں ہتاروں کے حل عطا، فریاد ہے ہم پر بھی رحم کیجئے آقا. حاضر ہے حاضری میں ہزاروں کے حل عطا، فریاد ہے ہم پر بھی رحم کیجئے آقا. بھائی حسن حسین کے وہ جان مرتضیٰ، عباس علمدار و سکائے سکینہ، تعریف ان کی کیا کروں کیا مجھ سے ہو ثنا، صدقہ انہی کے نام کا ملتا ہے مرحبا. حاضر ہے حاضری میں ہزاروں کے حل عطا، فریاد ہے ہم پر بھی رحم کیجئے آقا. آقا کو آج اپنی مصیبت سناؤ تم، پہلے تو اپنی آنکھوں سے آنسو بہاؤ تم، رو رو کے آگ آتش غم کی بجھاؤ تم، دل میں انہی کی حال کو مہمان بناؤ تم. حاضر ہے حاضری میں ہزاروں کے حل عطا، فریاد ہے ہم پر بھی رحم کیجئے آقا. ایک روز جو مجلس میں شبیر میں گیا، تھی حاضری عباس علمدار کی وہاں، جتنا بھی دل میں رنج تھا وہ سارا مٹ گیا. آ کر کسی نے کانوں میں چھپ کے سے یہ کہا، حاضر ہے حاضری میں ہزاروں کے حل عطا، فریاد ہے ہم پر بھی رحم کیجئے آقا. جو حاضری عباس علمدار کی کرے، اللہ اس کی مشکل آسان سب کرے. دن رات جو عباس کے نعرے سے دم بھرے، کیا غم اسے دنیا کا کسی سے وہ کیوں ڈرے. حاضر ہے حاضری میں ہزاروں کے حل عطا، فریاد ہے ہم پر بھی رحم کیجئے آقا. ہے حاضری عباس کی تشریف لائیے، یعنی علی کے لال پہ قربان جائیے. رو کر ادب کے ساتھ یہ پڑھ کر سنائیے، سرکار آپ کا ہمیں روزہ دکھائیے. حاضر ہے حاضری میں ہزاروں کے حل عطا، فریاد ہے ہم پر بھی رحم کیجئے آقا. صلوات اللہم صلی علی
صلوات. جب ردا سر سے چھنی میں صدا دیتی رہی، تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چھنی میں صدا دیتی رہی، تو نہ آیا غازی. آل عمران کہاں اور زندان کہاں، یہ بہن قید ہوئی، تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چھنی میں صدا دیتی رہی، تو نہ آیا غازی. ہم کو پانی نہ ملے تیری خوشبو تو رہے، تیرے بازو نہ کٹے، چاہے مشکی زاچی دے، یہ مگر ہو نہ سکا، تیرے بازو ہے جدا، مجھ پہ ہے تشنا لبی، تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چھنی میں صدا دیتی رہی، تو نہ آیا غازی. آ گئی شام علم لٹ گئے اہل حرم، ریت پر جلتی ہوئی ہو گیا ٹھنڈا علم، پرسہ دینے کے لیے مجھ سے ملنے کے لیے آ گئے بابا علی، تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چھنی میں صدا دیتی رہی، تو نہ آیا غازی. کیا کہوں شعر میرے بے ردا ہم کو لیے، یہ مسلمان سارے شہر در شہر گئے، خلقت کوفہ کبھی خلقت شام کبھی، اور ہاں ہم پہ ہنسی، تو نہ آیا غازی. جب ردا سر سے چھنی میں صدا دیتی رہی، تو نہ آیا غازی. کتنی بے بس تھی بہن اے شہنشاہ وفا، نام لے لے کے میرا جب یہ ظالم نے کہا، ناز تھا جس پہ تجھے اب بلاؤ نہ اسے، اور میں روتی رہی، تو نہ آیا غازی. जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया गाजी कैद खाने में कज़ा जब सकीना को मिली दे के कुर्ते का कफन बच्ची दफनाई गई उस गरी नाम तेरा सूरते ना दे अली दुख में दोहराती रही तू ना आया गाजी जब रिदा सर से छिनी मैं सदा देती रही तू ना आया गाजी अल्लाह सलवात अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मदिन व आलि मुहम्मद
Assalamu alaikum everyone. We are gathered here again for the Ashram Majalis at this Razavi Community Center. Inshallah, program tomorrow also will start early like today, 7:30 will start. So you have enough time for recitations and Majlis and Marsiyas and of course the Masaibs also. From Wednesday, we'll start around Maghrib time, I'll announce tomorrow. But tomorrow, 7:30 will still start at the same time. For morning programs, 10:30, ladies program starts at this center. Zakir and Najeez Kareem is the reciter for the Majlis. Donations I've been announcing, and thank you for all your generous donations. Anyone still interested to help achieve our target can contact anyone in the management. Our treasurer Dr. Muhammad is here also, and anyone in the management can help you out. Check, cash, debit, whatever works, we can inshallah help you out with that. For calendars, anyone interested in Islamic calendar, they are available, $3 for one and $5 for two. There are also books for kids. Anyone interested can contact myself. Lastly, I'll request for the Surah Fatiha for the Isal of tonight's sponsors, and all our marhumin, people who are no longer with us, have contributed throughout their life for this wonderful center here. Our dedicated volunteers. Anyone who does not have anyone to recite Surah Fatiha, Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Allahumma ighfir lil mu'minina wal mu'minat. And I'll just request two more things as usual. If you can put your cell phones on mute so we don't get disturbance during the Majlis and Namaz, inshallah. And if I request all the kids also, if you can come more towards the member. We've inshallah expecting more people to come tonight. So come as close to the member as you can, and inshallah people coming later can be accommodated easily. And now I'll request with your loud salawats for Sheikh to start his lecture. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad salawat. Allah.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. My auntie passed away early hours of this morning. For Isal Sawab of her ruh and for the arwah of all the mu'mineen and mu'minat, if I can ask you to recite one surah al-Fatiha, please. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على الحبيب المصطفى أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. وأما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد وهو أصدق القائلين: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال: فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. When Iblis refused to do sajda to Adam and he showed arrogance towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah asked him why, and after the conversation finished, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, get out of the kingdom of my bliss. Here he makes a promise and he makes a vow. In verse 16, chapter 7 of the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala documents Iblis being Iblis but still believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being Rabbul Alameen. And we are the students of Iblis and we don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being Rabbul Alameen. But Iblis says, Oh Allah, I swear by your might. قَالَ فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي. Now look at how arrogant he had become. He says, I swear by the fact that you have deviated me. You are the one who tricked me. What will I do? Because of your trickery, because of you've deviated me. He blames Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قَالَ فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي لَأَقْعُدَنَّ لَهُمْ صِرَاطَكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. I will now do what? I will sit on the Sirat al-Mustaqim for them, waiting for them. And then the following verses say, I will come to them from the right, from the left, from all directions to try and throw them off. Allah says to him, don't worry, go do what you want. He says, as for those who follow you, I'll join you all together in the hellfire. He says, as for those righteous servants of mine, you have no power on them whatsoever. And this is why in another part of the Holy Quran, in Surah Al-Hashr, the human beings on the Day of Judgment blame Iblis. They say, you are the reason why we didn't follow the path. You are the reason why we did all these wrong things. He says, no, it wasn't. I simply whispered. Inherently, you were already bad. You wanted to do these evil things. I simply whispered and you flocked towards me. You flocked towards these evil things. Last night, we asked a question. If we believe that this Majalis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam are an extension of the mission of Aba Abdullah, and we know the mission of Aba Abdullah was to introduce reform into the community, to induce change in me as an individual and in the community as a whole, then why is it that we have been attending these Majalis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, yet we do not see significant change in ourselves? The question is why? And we'll come to that in a second. Let me start tonight's lecture with asking you another rhetorical question. Why do we cry for Aba Abdullah al-Hussein? And tomorrow we'll talk about some of the merits for crying for Aba Abdullah. And if I cannot bring myself to cry, what are the reasons and what are the remedies? We'll talk about that tomorrow, inshallah. The question for today is, why do you cry for Aba Abdullah al-Hussein? Am I feeling sorry for my Imam? Okay, oh Imam, they killed you so viciously, so gruesomely, so barbarically. Therefore I cry for the barbaricness that happened to Imam alayhi salam. If that's the case, then there are much more barbaric and gruesome things that are happening across the world. They enter into people's homes, they rape their women and children, and then they burn them alive. That's much more gruesome than hitting the arrow on a little child's head. Therefore we do not cry because of the viciousness and the barbaric nature of the crimes per se. We cry because of these crimes happening to an individual like Hussein ibn Ali. And this is why our ulama, the emphasis in the ahadith, even tomorrow the ahadith that we will mention, the emphasis on the ma'rifah of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. And if we take nothing from these majalis but an increase in an understanding of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, eventually that takes us to a level where Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman in Ziyarat al-Nahiya says, "O grandfather Hussein, I have reached, having heard, having seen, or listening or seeing the atrocities that were dealt towards you, brings not tears to my eyes, but tears of blood to my eyes." Imam al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam, he says, "Inna musibat al-radi' aqrahat jufunana." He says, the musibah of little Ali Asghar has damaged the veins of our eyes, such that blood comes out. Why? Because they have understood who Hussein ibn Ali is. Some people thought this is too much. This is Ziyarat al-Nahiya, this hadith of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. So during the life of al-Marja' al-A'la, Sayyid Muhsin al-Hakim, some of his students came to him, or some people from the public came to him to ask him a question. They said, "Sayyidna, could this really be true? Could somebody day and night," because Imam Zaman in Ziyarat al-Nahiya says, "لَأَبْكِيَنَّ عَلَيْكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً," I will cry for you day and night. And when I remember these atrocities, tears of blood will flow from my eyes. They came to him and they said, "Sayyidna, is it possible for somebody to cry tears of blood?" At that moment, Sayyid Muhsin al-Hakim became overwhelmed and tears came to his eyes. And he pulled out a handkerchief and he just wiped his tears and he walked away. When the students saw him wipe his tears, there was blood in the handkerchief. He walked away. Maybe he was sending a message that I wasn't there in Karbala. I didn't see what happened to my Mawla Hussein. I only heard and read about them in the books. The Imam of my time is witnessing these atrocities as they are happening on the day of Ashura. And so, the question again is, why do we cry for Aba Abdullah al-Hussein? Add to that question is another question. If crying alone, and these are the words of Al-Marja' al-A'la, Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, the one who was killed by Saddam alongside his sister. He said, if crying alone was the goal, then the people of Kufa cried. When Lady Zainab was giving her talk and she was addressing them, they began crying. She said to them, "You crying? Now after what you have done?" He says that Umar ibn Sa'd himself cried on the day of Ashura when he heard the cries of Bibi Zainab lifting the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. The people were looting the Ahl al-Bayt on Sham Ghariba and they were crying. Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr asks the question, he says, if crying alone was the goal, then these people also cried. If all the thawab that we will talk about tomorrow was just for crying tears, then all these people cried. What do you say about them? Let's add to that question. Have any of us got a stamp of approval and a guarantee of the shafa'ah and intercession from Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? Any of you got a certificate to say, I will do your shafa'ah, I will intercede for you? No? We're all hoping. You have a certification? We're all hoping that the Imams will look upon us in the day of judgment and the hereafter and they will intercede for us. But what if I was to tell you there was a group of people on the night of Ashura, after Imam turned on the light and he saw nobody has moved, he looks at them and says, why have you not gone? Why have you not gone? Abbas, why have you not gone? Habib, why have you not gone? And when they all showed their valor and their strength and their steadfastness, Imam began congratulating them. Then Imam said to them, he says, by Allah, these people only want my blood. They will not touch you. Why don't you take the darkness of the night as your armor and you flee? Take the hands of one of my Ahl al-Bayt and each one of you go. By Allah, I will not blame you. I am relieving you of the oath of allegiance that I have over you. Not only that, I will testify on the day of judgment that you have been steadfast and firm in your iman. And I will ask my grandfather Rasulullah to do your intercession. They all had the certification. Nobody went. I ask you, At that moment in time, if Habib ibn al-Madha had decided to leave the camp of Imam al-Hussein and go, was he saved? He had already got the stamp of approval. He was free to go. He will get shafa'ah. Imam al-Hussein will testify for him. Imam guaranteed him Jannah. Habib, go, save your life. Now if Habib had chosen to stand on the outskirts of Karbala, on the sidelines as we like to stand, and he decided there that I will just beat my chest and cry while I'm watching them kill my Imam. He is saved. He's got the stamp of approval of shafa'ah. If Habib was to choose to stand on the sidelines and watch the event of Karbala and simply beat his chest and say, Ya Hussein, and cry, because it brings tears to your eyes, would he then deserve the right to be in Ziyarat-e Waritha and Ziyarat-e Ashura, where Imams of the Ahl al-Bayt would say, Bi Abi Anta wa Ummi? Therefore, crying alone is not the goal. It must lead to another goal. And that goal, and the goal behind the crying and the majalis of Imam al-Hussein and this azadari is to take us to Karbala. This should not be the goal. It's a means towards a much higher goal. We'll come back to this point in a second. Today, we all say, yesterday I asked you a question, or the day before that I asked you a question. If your Imam came and asked you for his help, would you help him? And you all remember your answer. One day, a man comes to our sixth holy Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. His name was a Sayyid Hassan al-Khurasani. Sayyid may not be from the progeny of the Ahl al-Bayt, but Sayyid is a title the Arabs use sometimes to respect someone. He comes in the presence of Imam, he's a Shia of the Ahl al-Bayt, he comes, he says, Oh Mawla, I am a general in the army. Oh Mawla, why don't you stand up like your grandfather Hussein? There is so much support available for you. Just in Khurasan, just the army that I lead is over 50,000 strong. Oh Imam, you stand up. Imam said to him, I will stand up, and who will stand with me? He says, Imam, I will be the first. And just under my command there are 50,000 soldiers. Imam said to him, are you sure? He says, yes, of course. There was a tannoor in the distance. You all know tannoor, where you get the tandoori chicken and the naans and what have you. Back in the days, they were the ovens and what have you. So he says to him, can you see that tannoor? He says, yes. It's burning. He says, go and sit in the tannoor. The man began hesitating. Imam, please, I've not done anything wrong. If you don't mind skipping this instruction on my... He says, no problems, sit down. Imam then continued the conversation. It so happens that moments later, another companion of Imam walked in. Salamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam. Harun al-Makfuf. And we'll come to him again tomorrow. Harun al-Makfuf comes in. Salamu alaikum wa alaikum assalam. Harun, sit in the tannoor. No other conversations, no other anything happens. Harun, go sit in the tannoor. Harun goes and fearlessly opens the cover of the tannoor, sits in the tannoor, puts the cover back. Imam continues in the conversation with the Khurasani, Hussein al-Khurasani. How is Fulan person? How is the health of this person? What's this guy doing? What's the answer? How far have the ulama reached in this with regards to this? And the person is replying back to Imam, but his mind is at the tannoor. Eventually he could take it no more. He says, Oh Mawla, please let me go and check on this poor guy. He must have become barbecued by now. Imam says, go check. He goes, he opens the tannoor. He sees Aba Harun al-Makfuf sitting there doing tasbih. Imam says, Aba Harun, you can come out now. Aba Harun comes out. They both sit together in front of Imam. The Khurasani asks Aba Harun al-Makfuf, he said, did you not fear? Was there no fear in your heart when Imam said to you, go and sit in the tannoor? He says, why should I fear? I know that he is the personification of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He loves me more than my own mother loves me. If he asks me to do anything, it will only be for my own benefit. If he sends me to battle and I end up dying, it would be more for my benefit. Not for his, he has nothing to gain. Therefore, I had no doubt in my mind that if my Mawla instructs me to do something, he would only mean the best for me. He says, "Oh Aba Harun, how did the fire feel?" He says, I just remembered the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. وَقُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى Ibrahim. Except here, nobody had to tell the fire. The fire knew that its Mawla is telling it be bardan salaman for Harun. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraj. Imam said to him, "O Khurasani, O brother of Khurasan, how many like him do you have in your 50,000? He said, "Imam, not a single person. Not a single person." The goal behind these majalis and these tears and this matam and this niyaz and ziyarat was to take us to Karbala, was to make us Habib, was to make us Hur. Today, the Karbala of today, Rasulullah says, in our penultimate lecture, we will talk about the story of Musa and seeing God and what have you. Over there, Rasulullah says there's an obligation on each and every person to identify the Musa of his time, the Fir'aun of his time, the Samiri of his time, the Qarun of his time. Equally, it is an obligation for us today by listening to Karbala to identify who is the Hussein of our time, who is the Yazid of our time, who is the Shimr of our time, who is the Umar ibn Sa'd of our time, who is Ibn Ziyad of our time, so that we know who not to follow and who to support. Today's Karbala needs Hur, needs another Habib, needs another Zainab, it needs another little Ruqayya, it needs another Ali Akbar. The goal behind the Azadari of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was to propel us to go to Karbala, to take on these jobs, to join the Karbala of today, to ready ourselves for the Karbala of tomorrow of Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Every night, mashallah, you recite Dua al-Faraj. And sometimes we would recite Allahumma kulli waliyika, or al-Ghawth, the other dua as well, calling Imam alayhi salam. Are we ready? Are we ready to receive our Imam? One day, one of the greatest scholars over the last century, Sayyid Mahdi Bahrul Ulum, maybe a little bit more than a century, over the last 2 centuries. Just his title, Bahrul Ulum, tells you the stature of this person. One day he looked at the status of the oppression that is being dealt towards the Shi'as of the Ahl al-Bayt. He used to reside in Hilla. Hilla at that time was a center point of knowledge as well. It's not too far from Najaf. Those of you who have been to some of the ziyarat in Hilla, it's not too far from Najaf. And so he used to be amongst the ulama of the city of Hilla. After looking at the oppression that is being dealt towards the human beings, and in particular the followers of the Ahl al-Bayt, he felt like asking his Mawla, the Imam Sahib al-Asr, a question. And so after doing a'mal for 40 days and 40 nights, wanting to meet Imam alayhi salam, and he was a alim, and you will rid the earth from oppression and you will fill it with justice and equality. He says, Imam, look at the oppression that is happening around us in the world. Oh Imam, it's time for you to come. Imam says, oh Sayyid Mahdi, I will come, and who will support me? Who will support me? Sayyid Mahdi says, oh Mawla, I will be there. The city of Hilla is filled with thousands of ulama and believers of the Ahl al-Bayt who are shouting with the loudest voices, Al-Ajal, 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 Allahumma kulli waliyika al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Now just in brackets before somebody takes, because always there are, in the crowds, there are selective listeners. When we say our tears are not bringing fruits, when we say the attendance in majalis is not bringing the fruits it should do, when we say this dua of faraj is not bringing the fruits it should do, does that mean tomorrow, from today, you go home and you all decide not to do this dua or stop praying? The answer is no. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, maybe my salah is not sincere right now, but Allah keeps inviting me 5 times a day for the rest of your life. Try again, try again, try again, try again. And keep trying. Like he said to Ibrahim. Ibrahim says to Allah, he says, oh Allah, how long should I keep worshipping you for? I mean, where's enough? Yeah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to him, oh Ibrahim, wa'bud rabbaka hatta ya'tiyaka al-yaqeen. In the Quran. He says, keep worshipping, keep chipping at it. Keep trying and keep trying until you attain yaqeen. Yaqeen here has many meanings. One meaning is conviction. And the other meaning is death. because death is the only yaqeen. Anyway, so the idea is when we say that maybe we are not getting the fruits of azadari, of these tears, of this matam, of this majlis, of these du'as, doesn't mean we stop doing them. It means we just keep trying better, introducing a little bit more sincerity. He said, Imam says to him, "Oh Sayyid Mahdi, who will support me?" He says, "Oh Mawla, we are all ready to support you." And again, it's another thought came into my mind in brackets. This support. The hadith says if there were 40 people ready, Imam alayhi salam will reappear. Today some of our youngsters ask, and again I don't want to blame the youngsters, the elders probably have this question in their hearts and minds as well. Why did Amirul Mu'mineen, who we say is Fatih Khaybar, Fatih Hunayn, Fatih Khandaq, the champion of Uhud, the champion of Badr, why did he not stand up and fight for his right? Rasulullah, did you know that Amirul Mu'mineen had an instruction from Rasulullah to stand up and fight? But there was a condition. He says, Ya Ali, if 40 people join you, then stand up and take your right by force. And yesterday we mentioned, Amirul Mu'mineen would take Fatima to Zahra, Imam Hassan and Hussein, and they will go knock, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There's a request for you to all move forward, inshallah, with one more loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum wa la naduhum. He says, Ya Ali, if 40 people pay allegiance to you and they're sincere in joining you, go take your right by force. Amirul Mu'mineen would drag his family. A lady who's just given miscarriage. The door has been burnt. She is in extreme pain. There was no anesthetics at that time. There was no paracetamol and codeine at that time. He drags her for 3 days with their children, so that they see them and they remember these are the people who Rasulullah used to respect. These are the people Rasulullah would stand at their doorstep for 6 consecutive months, twice a day. And he will say, Assalamu alaikum ya ahla baytun nubuwa. You are ahla baytun nubuwa. Just so that maybe people see them and they feel a bit of shame. He would knock the doors. He will say, you remember Rasulullah saying, Ali is your Imam, Ali is your Khalifa, Man kuntu mawla, fahada aliyun mawla. They said, yes, we remember. He said, will you not stand for the truth? Will you not stand with the haqq then? Al-haqqu ma'a Ali, aliyun ma'a al-haqq. You heard Rasulullah say this? Yes, we heard Rasulullah say this. Will you help me? Will you stand with me? Yes, we will stand with you. Okay, if you won't stand with me, shave your head tomorrow, which is a sign that I'm ready for jihad, and come in Masjidun Nabawi tomorrow, after Fajr. 5 people would turn up. 6 people would turn up. After 3 days, Amirul Mu'mineen says, now, I have to go by the secondary instruction of Rasulullah, which is, Ya Ali, now bear patience. Do you understand? 40 people, if they exist today, ready for Imam Sahib al-Asr, he will reappear. Sayyid Mahdi, who will stand with me? Sayyid Mahdi says, Ya Ibna Rasulillah, O Mawla, there are thousands of followers, thousands of ulama, righteous individuals. He says, okay, Sayyid Mahdi, let's do a test. This Thursday, I will come to your house. And I want you to go and pick 40 of the best of ulama or pious people of the city of Hilla and bring them for me. If they pay allegiance, we will start our revolution tomorrow. Amongst those 40, I want you to bring Fulan butcher and tell him to place 2 sheep on the ceiling or on the roof of your house. Back in those days, houses used to be single stories. Those of you who have been to India, Pakistan and some of the villages in Africa, people still live in single huts kind of thing, and they have a rooftop at the top. Imam says, okay, date is set, Thursday. Sayyid Mahdi is happy. He goes knocking on everybody's doors. He then starts picking the best of the best of the best, in his opinion. He is not an ordinary person, He is Sayyid Mahdi Bahrul Ulum, the marja of his time. Sayyid Mahdi goes and picks the creme de la creme, the best of the best, and he brings them to his house. Imam alayhi salam wants to take allegiance from you, and we will start the revolution. And the Thursday night comes. They're all sitting there gathering. You know, if you were selected, or if I was selected, if somebody came and told me, Imam has chosen you to be amongst the people who meet him. We will be over the moon. No? We will start congratulations. Ya mashallah, you are the best of believers, you are Jannati, waghaira. You know? All of a sudden they feel the presence, or they see some illumination, they feel that Imam alayhi salam is present. Imam says, "Oh Fulan butcher, come up." So the butcher goes up. Imam had already told the butcher to leave 2 sheep at the top, on the rooftop. Imam says, "Butcher, come up." The butcher comes up. He says to him, "Slaughter the first sheep in such a way that the blood flows down the staircase." So the first sheep is slaughtered and the blood flows down the staircase. Now all these people who had gathered thinking that it's going to be a beautiful meeting, they see a human being went up alive and blood is coming down. Imam then says, "Sayyid Mahdi, you come up." Sayyid Mahdi goes up. Imam says to the butcher, "Now slaughter the second sheep in exactly the same way, such that the blood starts flowing down." Sayyid Mahdi goes up, the butcher slaughters the sheep, blood starts going down. Now they wait for 2-3 minutes. Imam then says to Sayyid Mahdi, "Now Sayyid Mahdi." Now obviously these guys who are left at the bottom, they're seeing 2 human beings went up, salamat, full, alive, and blood came down. Now he said, "Sayyid Mahdi, call all of them up." Sayyid Mahdi shouts, he says, "You can all come up now." Now all of a sudden, you know, at moments like these we show our best etiquette. Nahi, pehle aap, pehle aap, pehle aap. You go first, you go first, you go first. At this rate, everybody disappeared. After a long time, nobody comes up. Sayyid Mahdi is shouting, "Come up, come up, come up." Nobody's come up. Imam says to him, "Go have a look what's happened." Sayyid Mahdi comes down. He says, "There's nobody left." He comes up with tears in his eyes. He understood. Imam says to him, "Sayyid Mahdi, you want to place the life of your Imam in the hands of people like this?" And so we say, "We are ready for you, O Imam." We say we are willing to help Imam. You know, I remember a meeting in 2016 in the house of Ayatullah Shaykh Bashir al-Najafi. May Allah prolong his life and increase in his tawfiqat. And those of you who have met Shaykh, you know he's got a very jolly style of speaking, but he's also very direct. When he sees somebody not observing the beard, or a sister who's got a loose hijab on, he says it straight. And I will lead into what he said. You know, today we are so lucky. We have not been asked yet by the Ahl al-Bayt to give our sons, to give our properties. Nobody has asked us yet to give a single fingernail for Islam. Shaykh Bashir al-Najafi looks at the crowd. Somebody asked him a question, which inshallah we can discuss at some other time. He looks at the crowd, he says, "Are we really sincere? Are we really sincere? We keep shouting with the loudest voices. We attend these majalis. We cry for Aba Abdullah, and inshallah we will receive the thawab. But this was not the goal. The goal was to take us much higher, much further." He says, "We are not prepared to grow a few pieces of hair," which is fashionable nowadays, by the way. So we have no excuse. He says, "We are not prepared to grow a few pieces of hair on our cheeks." He looked at the sisters. He says, "We're not prepared to abide by the first level of hijab, just to cover this hair properly." We are serious? We're going to give our lives? In Ziyarat-e Warisa that you recite every Thursday night, bi abi anta wa ummi, ya laytani kuntu ma'akum. What does it mean? I wish I was with you. I would have also offered my sacrifice. He says, "Are you serious?" We're not willing to wake up to pray a 2 rakat namaz which takes 2 minutes. Those people who can lift hundreds of kilograms in the gym, the duvet cover becomes so heavy that we can't lift for 2 minutes. We cannot stop listening to this haram music. Despite now we have so many halal alternatives. Nasheeds that sound like songs. And the Maraja say no problems. You know, and so many thousands of things that we are not willing to sacrifice. It's all lip service. It's all lip service. Yesterday I asked you, or the day before yesterday I asked you, if your Imam asked you for help, would you stand up and help him? You all said yes. I ask you, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Ashura, after burying Ali Asghar, he comes in the battlefield. He says, Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna. Everybody is gone now. Ali Asghar is buried, the last final sacrifice. He says, Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna. Ala hal min dhabin yadhubbu an harami Rasulillah. Ala hal min mughithin yughithuna. Is there somebody to help me? I ask you. Imam, who is the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the fearless lion of God, was he scared for his life? Was he scared for his life? Why was he asking them for help? They had just killed his Abbas, his Ali Akbar, his Asghar. Was he asking them for help? No, by Allah. Imam's words reverberate throughout history and for eternity. Imam was calling you and I today. He's saying, oh people of Hamilton, Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna. Will you help me, please? Are we ready to help Imam? Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Our mushkil kusha, the one who we turn to at every affliction and atrocity or calamity in our lives. In a letter he writes to one of his governors in Basra, when he hears that this governor in Basra was going to the banquets of the aristocrats and the rich people of Basra, he writes a letter for him, rebuking him. Remember, the words of our Imams reverberate for eternity. There are instructions for all human beings for eternity. He writes in his letter, he says, how dare you join the banquets of the aristocrats and the rich people? What would the poor individuals in your town think about you? What image are you leaving to those who cannot afford to feed you the biryanis and all these lavish foods? Imam then says words that are instructions for you and I. Remember, you said you will stand with Imam, you will help Imam. Imam says, أَمَا تَرَوْنَ أَنَّ إِمَامَكُمْ قَدْ اكْتَفَى مِنْ دُنْيَاهُ بِطِمْرِهِ وَمِنْ عَيْشِهِ بِقُرْصِهِ. He says, can you not see that your Imam has sufficed from all the luxuries of this world, these 2 pieces of cloth, and all the great foods of this world, 2 dry pieces of bread? Allahu Akbar. Salamullahi alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Have you ever seen a leader, an emperor of one of the largest empires on the face of the earth at that time, live such a humble life? They said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, your khazana, your treasury is filled with millions and billions of dollars. Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, why don't you change your clothes? Why don't you eat some honey? He says, maybe there is somebody in my empire, in Yemen, Yamama, the extreme south. And he names another place in the extreme north that might not have the ability to afford honey. He says, I will therefore live humbly so that I can be muwasi for that person. So I can show that I am with you or that person. Subhanallah, the Urdu poet so beautifully puts this. He says, वो बोरिया नशी था मगर वो अपने ज़ेर कदम तख्त ताज रखता था. He lived a simple life. He sat on a simple mat. But in essence, he was the king and the custodian of the treasuries of this universe. वो बोरिया नशी था मगर वो अपने ज़ेर कदम तख्त ताज रखता था. अजीब शख्स था. फाकों में जी रहा था मगर वो अपनी मुट्ठी में सबका अनाज रखता था. He says, and I know, ولكن لا تقدرون على ذلك. I know you cannot emulate me. You cannot copy my lifestyle. But then he says, but help me. ولكن أعينوني. Help me, O my Shias. Mushkil Kusha, Ali Murtada, Fatih Khaybar and Hunayn is saying, help me. How should we help you, O Imam? He says, ولكن أعينوني بورع واجتهاد وعفة وسداد. Observe, help me by striving and struggling. Have a bit of control over your base desires. Show a bit of chastity, a bit of modesty. Be God conscious. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, help me by helping yourselves. Today we live a dream that is sold to us unfortunately from the mimbar. And one of the reasons why I said, why is it that with these majalis, this azadari is not inducing change in us? Number one reason is maybe we do not want to change. We do not want to change. We want to come here. We want to hear the fada'il and the merits of the Ahl al-Bayt. We want to lament for them. We want to rejoice when we eulogize them. But we don't want to emulate them. We want to hear of the great akhlaq and their merits, but we don't want to copy them and become like them. Why? Maybe we fear that if I try to become like Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, like Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, I'll have to live a boring life. Because again, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. Because again, our conception of fun, of living the life is what's sold to us by Hollywood and Bollywood. And that's how we grow up. By Allah, when you study the purpose behind life and why we go on holidays, why do we buy these flashy cars, why do we buy the flashy watches, and you see what are we trying to achieve from them? And then you come and look at the lives of the Ahl al-Bayt, you will feel that there is nobody on the face of this planet who lived a more fulfilling, fun, satisfied life than the Ahl al-Bayt alayhimus salam. But we're scared. Number two reason, we're scared to change. That's why you would notice, and again you can go and ask yourself this question when you get home. This is why we like speakers and ulama who tell us everything from the mimbar, except to tell us to change. We like those individuals and we celebratize them. We raise them above God. Yeah? Tell us anything from the mimbar. Entertain us. Or give us knowledge that will be of no use to us if we learn it, and of no use to us if we don't learn it. Or we don't miss out if we don't learn it. But don't tell us to change. That's why we love having these kind of speakers and ulama. Go and ask yourself this question. Reflect on this when you go home. The third reason why we don't want to change is maybe we are too scared. Second reason is maybe we're too scared. Maybe we think this change is too difficult. Imam alayhi salam says, help me. You cannot emulate me, I know, but help me by helping yourselves. Tomorrow I will do your intercession, I will do your shafa'ah. But you all recite Ayatul Kursi, yes, every single day, inshallah, for your protection and the protection of your families. In Ayatul Kursi, you say, La yashfa'una illa bi'idhnih. Amirul Mu'mineen does not dictate the terms. He is a servant of Allah at the end of the day. He will never go against Allah. There has to be idhn of Allah before Amirul Mu'mineen and Rasulullah do our shafa'ah, our intercession. He is simply our lawyer, our attorney in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amirul Mu'mineen says, help me by helping yourselves. Give me a case to fight with. The best of lawyers today will not be able to fight my case if there is no case to begin with. He says, give me a something to go with in this court. By Allah, they tell us they will take care of 99% of the issues for us. Just 1% effort is needed. 1%. We're not willing to give 1% to the Ahl al-Bayt. For days, for 8 days now, let's bring this topic to close. For 8 days and 8 nights we've been discussing inspiration taken from the word of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam to his enemies. He says, Kunu ahraran, be free men in this world. Think freely. Don't look at the world view of God. Don't look at your parents' view of God. You establish your own view. Don't look at the world view of death. You remember? Don't look at your parents' view of death. You go and ask and ask and ask until you reach conviction. Be free in your thinking. You use your intellect. For 8 days I've been using questions and asking you, what would a sane person do? You remember? For 8 nights we've been. I wasn't trying to be derogatory towards you or patronize you, but I wanted to show that sometimes we as intelligent human beings, you are successful businessmen, you are professionals, you are top in your professions, you're intelligent human beings, yet sometimes we make unintelligent or decisions that lack intelligence. Does anybody know what the dictionary definition is of insanity? Ahsant. The dictionary definition of insanity is to do the same thing day in, day out, over and over and over again, and expecting a different result. We can come for another 100 years to these majalis of Aba Abdullah, and may Allah give you a long life. We can cry we can cry tears until we fill the oceans. And inshallah there is thawab for all these things. But unless it takes us to the ultimate goal of this azadari, we have not fulfilled the right of Karbala and the sacrifice of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein offered such sacrifice. He offered his little Ali Asghar just so that I attend this majlis and cry for Imam al-Hussein and beat my chest. This is not the goal. This is the means to a greater goal. We're scared. I know it's difficult to go on the path of change. But they are not looking at us to change 180 degrees like Hur. Inshallah there will be someone amongst us who changes his life like Hur. But they are saying to us, just try, just give it a go. 1% effort. And we'll take care of the other 99% for you. 1% effort. Today I can see in front of me over 100 men. And maybe there is equal numbers in the ladies. Could we today all not make a pact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And we say, for the love of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, for the love of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam, each and every one of us today will pick one sin, just one sin that we do. And pick the lowest hanging fruit, the sin that you will miss the least. And say, in the love of Imam al-Hussein, I will leave this sin. And give it a go. Go for a month. You might revert back to the sin. No problems. Say astaghfirullah. Say, oh Allah, help me, I'll try again. Go for 2 months. Go for 6 months. Come back this time next year and say, oh Aba Abdullah, I made a promise last year, I kept to my word. Now you watch, imagine. Could you imagine the status of this community? If 200 people decided to drop a single sin, just one sin, from the thousands of sins that we commit every single day. And the most sins are committed in here, by the way. Single sin. Could you imagine the spirituality and the positiveness that we will induce in this community? Then we have fulfilled the right of this majalis, this azadari. Then we have walked the path. Because tomorrow on the day of judgment, my salah, my fasting, my tears, my azadari have no value. Tomorrow, if I am saved, it will be only and only because of the intercession of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad and ali Muhammad. They're saying, just take one step. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Hadith al-Qudsi says, you take one step towards me and I'll drag you 100 steps towards me. Allah could drag me 100 steps. He's more merciful. But He says, I won't drag you 100 steps until you take the first step. And if we take nothing from these 8 nights, except this, then this would have fulfilled the right of this azadari, these majalis, these tears, these ziyarat that we go on. Just one small miniature step. Tonight, there are many people who would have come with the hajat in their minds, wanting to take their hajat or intercede to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of Babul Hawa'ij, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. And my heart wants to tell me to begin the Masa'ib with a beautiful story, but the time is telling me not to. Inshallah for some other time. This Babul Hawa'ij, hundreds of millions, if not tens of millions, if not hundreds, have been flocking towards the gateway to the gateway of Aba Abdullah. Aba Abdullah is the gateway of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The gateway to the gateway of Aba Abdullah is Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. People flock to the Ahl al-Bayt for their hajat. People flock to the Ahl al-Bayt for their needs. But the door that the Ahl al-Bayt come to for their needs is the door of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. For as long as he is alive, there is peace and tranquility in the hearts of Sakina and Ruqayya and Kulthum and Zainab. Tens of millions of people for 14 centuries have been going to his gate and asking for their hajat. Today people doubt What's this nonsense that you're talking about? Miracles and what have you. If we ever get a chance from the Quran, we can prove. But I tell you one thing, think about this. If these people were not getting anything from Babul Hawa'ij, for 14 centuries, they're not insane. They would not keep knocking on the door for 14 centuries if they were not getting something back from Babul Hawa'ij. But this is that Babul Hawa'ij. Today the ulama debate what made him Babul Hawa'ij. What did Abul Fadl Abbas do that was so great that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this title of Babul Hawa'ij? Was it his bravery and valor? Was it the fact that Imam Zainul Abidin calls him a faqih, a jurist, a learned person? Was it his patience? What was it? That the poets are baffled. They say, Wafa ko naaz hai jis par, use Abbas kehte hain. The flag bearer of loyalty, his name is Abbas. He says, Wafa ko naaz hai jis par, use Abbas kehte hain. Lage jo saniye Haidar, use Abbas kehte hain. Alam patthar pe jo gaare, use kehte hain sab Haidar. Alam gaare jo pani par, use Abbas kehte hain. What did you do, Ya Abul Fadl al-Abbas? The ulama reach a conclusion and a consensus that what gave him this status was in his own words. When he entered into the river Euphrates and he picked up the water in his hands, then he dropped the water on the water, he recited a couplet of poetry. This gave him the reasons for becoming a Babul Hawa'ij. He says, Ya nafsu min ba'dil Husayni huni. He says, oh my soul, do you desire to live after your Mawla Hussein? What is your worth? But this ma'rifah of Abul Fadl al-Abbas, that he had annihilated his entire existence after the word and the instructions of his Mawla Hussein alayhi salam. All his life, he kept hearing that Abbas, you were born for Karbala. Abbas, your father Hussein asked Allah for you in Namaz-e-Shab. Oh Abbas, he chose your mother so that she gives him a lion warrior like you. Oh Abbas, when they attacked when they attacked the coffin of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, Abul Fadl Abbas wanted to take out his sword. Imam al-Hussein stopped him and says, Abbas, not today. Not today, your day is in Karbala. But when Hur came on the third day of Muharram, he says, Umar ibn Sa'ad says, you need to move all these tents away from the river Euphrates. Abbas wanted to pull his sword. Imam al-Hussein said, Abbas, not today. Maybe Abbas would have looked at Imam and he says, oh Imam, all my life you have told me my turn will come in Karbala. Oh Imam, we are now in Karbala. But the night of Ashura came. It is said the battle had begun on the night of Ashura. Imam sent Abul Fadl al-Abbas to ask for one night respite. But the night before, there was a meeting that happened in the camp of Umar ibn Sa'ad. Umar ibn Sa'ad asked his generals, what's the status of the army? They said they are all scared. They're all trembling out of fear. He said, why? We are 50,000, 100,000, 30,000. There are only 70 to 100 people. They said, because of one man. Because there is a man known as Abbas ibn Ali in that camp. He said, what shall we do? He said, let us go and give him a peace treaty, an amnesty. Shimr Mal'oon came on the night of Ashura. When Imam was holding the meeting amongst his companions, he says, Aina banu ikhwatina, where are my nephews? Because he had some relation in the clan of Banu Kilab with the mother of Abbas. Abbas ignored him. But Imam said to Abul Fadl Abbas, he says, Abul Fadl, even though he may be a wretched person, go and see what he wants. Abul Fadl comes alongside with his brothers. They come, Shimr says to them, I have some good news for you. You can leave Hussein. I have this amnesty for you from the Amir. You can save your life. You go and leave Hussein. Abul Fadl al-Abbas takes that treaty and he cuts it into half. He says, woe be unto you, O Shimr. You are giving me amnesty. You are giving me respite, and there is no respite for the son of Fatima. But Shimr shimmer goes. Imam al-Hussein comes out of the tent. He says, Abbas, what did shimmer want? He says, oh Mawla, he was offering me to give my life. He was offering me amnesty. Look at the merciful nature of our Imam, our Mawla. He says, Abbas, why did you not take up his offer? Why did you not go? Abu Fadl Abbas turned towards Najaf. He says, oh Father Ali, the man in whose hands you left my hands on the night of 21st of Ramadan is asking me to leave him. But they embraced. The night of Ashura continued. Abu Fadl Abbas was guarding the tents when all of a sudden he saw Lady Zainab come out of her tent. He rushed towards her. He was on his horse. He galloped towards her. He says, Mawlati, why did you bother yourself? I would have come to you. She says, no, Abbas, I wanted to speak to you in private. She held the lijam, the reins of the horse of Abu Fadl Abbas. She says, Abbas, do not come off the horse. For as long as you are on top of your steed, there is peace and tranquility in my heart. She says, Abbas, do you know why your father Ali ibn Abi Talib asked for you? But Abbas understood what she was trying to say. The narration says he galloped his horse. He says, oh my Mawlati Zainab, by Allah, given the permission, you will be proud of your brother. But the day of Ashura came. One after another companion went and never came back. Then Ali Akbar went, then Qasim went, then sons of Aqil went, the brothers of Abbas went, nobody came back. When now there was no one left, Abu Fadl Abbas comes to Imam al-Hussein. He says, oh Mawla Hussein, please grant me the permission to go and offer my sacrifice. Imam says to him, Abbas, I cannot give you the permission. You are my alamdar. You are the flag bearer of my army. My heart wants to say, Mawla Hussein, what army? But at that moment, the children of Imam al-Hussein were crying, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Abu Fadl Abbas saw Sakina holding her mashq, her water sack. He comes in front of Imam al-Hussein. Imam says to him, Abbas, if you must go, then go and bring some water for these children. But now Abu Fadl Abbas leaves his sword. He picks up a broken arrow, a broken spear, and he gallops towards the river Euphrates. 6,000 enemies were guarding the river Euphrates, but just seeing this charging lion coming at them, they all ran away. Abu Fadl entered the river Euphrates. He filled the mashq of Sakina, the water sack of Sakina. He then told his horse, you drink some water. The horse looked at Abu Fadl saying, oh Mawla, until you drink, how can I take a sip of water? I ask you by Allah, a 32-year-old man who is thirsty for 3 days and 3 nights, if he was to take one sip of water, could he be blamed? No, by Allah. But look at the valor and chivalry of Abu Fadl. He picks up the water. He looks at the water. The narration says, فَرَمَ الْمَاءَ عَلَى الْمَاءِ. He throws the water back in the water. And he says, woe be unto you, O soul. You desire to drink cold and tranquil water while your Mawla Hussein is thirsty. No, by Allah. He ascends his horse. Now he takes a different route through the trees. But as he is going, one mal'oon comes from behind him and he strikes his left arm. Abu Fadl Abbas throws the spear and picks the alam with the right arm, and he recites a couplet of poetry. He says, Wallahi la in qata'tumu yamini. Another person comes from behind. He severs the other hand. Abu Fadl, now the alam begins to fall. Abu Fadl Abbas brings the alam with he holds the alam with his knees and bends forward to protect the water sack of Sakina. Harmala said, I fired 3 arrows on the day of Ashura. One of those arrows hit the forehead of Abbas. The second arrow hit the mashq of Sakina. Amr ibn Sa'd came out and he says, shower all the arrows at him. Now all the arrows came forth. One arrow hit his head. He jerked backwards. The other arrow pierced the water sack of Sakina. But now one arrow pierced his eyes. But now when Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas sensed that the water is gone, he turned his horse back. One mal'oon took advantage, and he takes a metal pole and he strikes Abu al-Fadl on his forehead. Abu al-Fadl begins to fall from the horse. One day, one alim used to recite Masa'ib for Imam al-Hussein all his life. But one day he saw Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas in his dream. Abu al-Fadl says to him, "O Alim of Karbala, why do you not recite my Masa'ib?" He says, "O Mawla Abbas, all my life I have recited the Masa'ib of your brother Hussein, and I begin with your Masa'ib." He says, "No, you have not done justice." He said, "How so?" He says, "Every person, every martyr on the day of Ashura, when they fell from their horse, they had hands to support them. But when Abbas fell from his horse, there were no hands to support Abbas, and there was an arrow in his eye. I do not know how he fell, but he called Adrikni ya, O Mawla, O my master Hussein, come for my help." Now the narration says Imam al-Hussein rushed towards Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, but there came a time when he came off his horse, he picked up something, he kissed it and placed it on the ground. He went a little further, he picked the second hand of Abbas, he kissed it and he placed it back. Now as he is running looking for Abbas, Allama Majlis says Imam now begins running towards Abbas, falling on the ground, standing up holding his back, saying, "Al-an inkasara dhahri, Al-an inkasara dhahri." "Oh Abbas, with your loss now, my back is broken, my enemies will rejoice." Imam comes, he places the head of Abbas on his laps. Abu al-Fadl Abbas opens one of his eyes, but he cannot see, there is blood. He says, "Who are you?" He says, "I am your brother Hussein." He says, "Oh Mawla Hussein, please place my head back on the ground." "Oh Abbas, why?" He says, "Oh Mawla Hussein, who will place your head on their lap?" "Imam, I have some requests." "Well, Abbas, what are your wishes?" He says, "Oh Imam, do not take my body back to the tents." He says, "Why?" He says, "Because I made a promise to Sakina." Abbas is ashamed that he could not bring the water back for the children of Mawla Hussein. "Oh Imam, I have a final wish." "What is it, oh Abbas?" He says, "Oh Mawla, when I opened my eyes in this world, it was your beautiful face that was the first thing that I saw. It is the wish of Abbas to leave this world after doing the ziyarah of your beautiful face. But oh Mawla, I have no arms, and there is an arrow in one eye and blood in the other eye." But Imam wiped the blood from one of his eyes. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas opened his eye. He did the ziyarah of Mawla Hussein. Imam says, "Oh Abbas, your brother Hussein also has one wish." "Oh Imam, if I can do it, I will." Imam says to him, "Oh Abbas, from the day you were born, you always call me Mawla, you always call me Sayyidi, you always call me Aqa. Oh Abbas, it is the wish of Hussein that for once in your life you call me your brother." But Abbas gathered his strength. He says, "Akhi ya Hussein," and his life parted this world. But Imam takes the flag of Abbas and he goes towards the tents. As he is approaching towards the tents, Sakina brings out the children. She says, "Now the alam of my uncle Abbas is coming, water is coming, come and bring your cups." But they line up. But as Imam al-Hussein comes close, she sees that there is no Abbas. She comes to Imam, she says, "Oh Father Hussein, where is my uncle Abbas?" Imam had no words for her. He simply came and kicked down the pole of the tent of Abu al-Fadl, bringing it down. My heart wants to say maybe Sakina threw her cup on the ground, saying, "Sakina now does not want water, just bring me my uncle." ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون. Please join me in reciting the salam for Aba Abdullah. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Oh Allah, we ask you to forgive our sins and the sins of our parents. Oh Allah, we ask you to hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi, Sahibul Asri wal Zaman, Matam Hussein.
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، دل سینے میں جب تک ہے بھولے گا نہ غم تیرا، دل سینے میں جب تک ہے بھولے گا نہ غم تیرا، آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، زینب کی دعا بن کر ایک وقت وہ آئے گا، دعا بن کر ایک وقت وہ آئے گا، ہر گھر میں سجا ہوگا عباس علم تیرا، دل سینے میں جب تک ہے بھولے گا نہ غم تیرا، آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، آ جاتی ہے زہرا بھی زینب بھی زیارت کو، آ جاتی ہے زہرا بھی زینب بھی زیارت کو، جب 8 محرم کو اٹھتا ہے علم تیرا، دل سینے میں جب تک ہے بھولے گا نہ غم تیرا، آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، تابوت جب اٹھتا ہے شبیر کا اے غازی، تابوت جب اٹھتا ہے شبیر کا اے غازی، تابوت کے آگے بھی چلتا ہے علم تیرا، دل سینے میں جب تک ہے بھولے گا نہ غم تیرا، آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، آ دیکھ میرے غازی اونچا ہے علم تیرا، یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس یا عباس، وفاتی ان کے لیے اور یہ وفا کے لیے علی نے مانگا تھا غازی کو کربلا کے لیے وفاتی ان کے لیے اور یہ وفا کے لیے علی نے مانگا تھا غازی کو کربلا کے لیے حسین جھولا جھلاتے تھے ان کو یہ کہہ کر حسین جھولا جھلاتے تھے ان کو یہ کہہ کر یہ کام آئیں گے زینب تیری رضا کے لیے علی نے مانگا تھا غازی کو کربلا کے لیے وفاتی ان کے لیے اور یہ وفا کے لیے علی نے مانگا تھا غازی کو کربلا کے لیے نہ جانے کس لیے حیدر نے ان کے بازو کے نہ جانے کس لیے حیدر نے ان کے بازو کے ہزار بو سے گلے سے لگا لگا کے لیے علی نے مانگا تھا غازی کو کربلا کے لیے وفاتی ان کے لیے اور یہ وفا کے لیے علی نے مانگا تھا غازی کو کربلا کے لیے جری کے پیروں کو چوما ہے روز عاشورا جری کے پیروں کو چوما ہے روز عاشورا یہ خوش نصیب رہے مجھے الکما کے لیے علی نے مانگا تھا غازی کو کربلا کے لیے وفاتی ان کے لیے اور یہ وفا کے لیے علی نے مانگا تھا غازی کو کربلا کے لیے یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
اب تک ہے زبانوں پہ علمدار علمدار عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
کس شان سے بابا کا علم تو نے اٹھایا عباس علمدار
عباس علمدار
کس شان سے بابا کا علم تو نے اٹھایا
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
مشکیزہ چھٹا لوٹ کے تو گھر نہیں آیا
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
اے شیر جواں اے بسر حیدر کرار
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
اب تک ہے زبانوں پہ علمدار علمدار
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
او بہنوں کی رضا چھنتی ہے آ جاؤ اے بھائی
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
رن کیا گئے کیا بھاگئی دریا کی ترائی
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
زینب کی رضا لے گئے اب لشکر کفار
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار
اب تک ہے زبانوں پہ علمدار علمدار
عباس علمدار عباس علمدار عباس علمدار یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
حسین یا حسین
حیا علی خیر العمل حیا
یا علی
خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل
حیا علی خیر العمل
حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل حیا علی خیر العمل با وفا یا عباس با وفا یا عباس 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 محفوظ قافلہ ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے محفوظ قافلہ ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے اس نوری کارواں میں نوری ہماریاں ہیں نوری ہماریوں میں نوری سواریاں ہیں نوری سواریاں ہیں سر پر علم کھلا ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے نام ہے رموں کا مجمع ہٹ ہٹ کے ہے گزرتا پہرے میں باوفا کے طے ہو رہا ہے رستہ طے ہو رہا ہے رستہ کیا شان و دبدبا ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے عباس جیسا بھائی سالار کارواں ہے بولے حسین مجھ کو پھر کوئی غم کہاں ہے پھر کوئی غم کہاں ہے ہر غم کی یہ دوا ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے زینبیا کی ملکہ کلثوم اور رقیہ لیلا رباب فروا کبرا سکینہ فضہ کبرا سکینہ فضہ ہر بی بی باردہ ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے عباس جو زندہ ہے اصغر سے کھیلتی ہے خوش ہے بہت سکینہ جب چاہتی ہے سونا ہے بابا جاں کا سینہ ہے بابا جاں کا سینہ غم سے نہ آشنا ہے
عباس جو زندہ ہے ابھی دور کربلا ہے، ابھی دور کربلا ہے، ابھی دور کربلا ہے، عباس جو زندہ ہے، عباس جو زندہ ہے،
یا عباس،
یا عباس، یا عباس، یا حسین، 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 یا حسین،
یا عباس. سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
سلام غازی
سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
جگہ جگہ ہے علم گواہی، دلوں پہ تیری ہے بادشاہی، لبوں پہ تیرا ہی نام غازی، وفا کا
تو ہے امام غازی. سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
تیرے علم کا ہے ہم پہ سایہ، علم پہ سایہ ہے پنجتن کا، بلند
تیرا مقام غازی، وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
سلام غازی سلام غازی
وفا کا تو ہے
امام
غازی.
علم کا جب سے ہوا ہے سایہ، زمین کرب و بلا پہ مولا، تیرا ہے چلتا
نظام غازی، وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی. سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
سلام
غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
تو با وفا ہے تو لافتہ ہے، بے آسروں کا تو آسرا ہے، جہاں میں
چرچا ہے عام غازی، وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی. سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
اسلام غازی
غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
جو تیرے بازو قلم نہ ہوتے، اسیر اہل حرم نہ ہوتے، نہ
جاتی زینب یو شام غازی، وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی. سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی. سلام غازی سلام غازی وفا کا تو ہے امام غازی.
سلام یا حسین یا حسین
یا حسین.
صلوات و سلام آپ پر ہے فاطمہ زہرا، صلوات و سلام آپ پر ہے فاطمہ زہرا، ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا، صلوات و سلام آپ پر ہے فاطمہ زہرا، ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا. کانوں سے سکینہ کے اتارے گئے گوہر، کانوں سے سکینہ کے اتارے گئے گوہر، زینب کی بچھینی ہے رضا فاطمہ زہرا، صلوات و سلام آپ پر فاطمہ زہرا، ہم آئے ہیں پرسے کے لیے فاطمہ زہرا. اے رب جہاں پنجتن پاک کا صدقہ، اس قوم کا دامن غم شبیر سے بھر دے، بچوں کو عطا کر علی اصغر کا تبسم، بوڑھوں کو حبیب ابن مظاہر کی نظر دے، ماؤں کو سکھا ثانی زہرا کا سلیقہ، بہنوں کو سکینہ کی دعاؤں کا اثر دے، بچوں کو عطا کر ولولہ اون و محمد، ہر ایک جوان کو علی اکبر کا جگر دے، جو چادر زینب کی ازادار ہے مولا، محفوظ رہیں ایسی خواتین کے پردے. مولا تجھے زینب کی اسیری کی قسم ہے، بے جرم اسیروں کو رہائی کی خبر دے، جو دین کے کام آئے وہ اولاد عطا کر، جو مجلس شبیر کی خاطر ہو وہ گھر دے، مفلس پہ زر و لال و جواہر کی ہو بارش، मकरूज का हर कर्ज अदा गैब से कर दे। गम कोई न दे हमको सिवाय गम शब्बीर, शब्बीर का गम बांट रहा है तो इधर दे। बा मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وسلم.
مستقرا وقرارا برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين.